There will come a day, if it hasn't already, when life will throw its hardest punch, when the storm rolls in without warning and the winds of chaos howl in your ears. And in that moment, the world will wait. It will watch to see what you do next. Will you panic? Will you crumble? Or will you rise in perfect stillness, unshaken? This is not about pretending. It's not about faking confidence. It's about owning a truth so deep, so real, that nothing outside you has the power to move you unless you allow it. Today, I will show you how to act as if nothing affects you, not to escape life's trials, but to dominate them. This mindset is not just a shield, it is a weapon, one that turns obstacles into stepping stones and fear into fuel. If you're ready to stop reacting like the masses and start responding like a master, stay with me. What you're about to hear might just change the way you walk into every room and how the world sees you from this day forward. Power is found in emotional neutrality, not in apathy, not in indifference, but in the rare mastery of one's own reactions. It is the quiet strength that separates those who live at the mercy of their emotions from those who shape their own fate. The world does not belong to the man who shouts the loudest or moves the fastest. It belongs to the man who stands calm while others tremble, who chooses his response while others react in chaos. Emotional neutrality is not the absence of feeling. It is the disciplined control of feeling. Life will always present trials, losses, betrayals, and unforeseen obstacles. You will be insulted, challenged, underestimated, overlooked, even defeated. These things are not optional, but how you respond to them. This is where destiny is written. Most people are tossed and turned by every wave that hits their shore. One bad comment ruins their day. One setback breaks their spirit. One betrayal makes them cynical forever. They move through life like leaves in the wind, blown in whatever direction their emotions take them. But the man or woman who understands emotional neutrality is like a mountain. The wind howls, the storm rages, but the mountain does not move. That stillness, that refusal to be swayed by temporary emotions, is where power lives. Because emotions are often liars. Fear will whisper that you're not ready. Anger will push you to burn bridges you still need. Sadness will try to convince you that everything is hopeless when in fact you are one decision away from a breakthrough. Emotions are not the problem. But when emotions become the master instead of the servant, they turn from a guide into a tyrant. And when you act based on them without discipline, you lose control of the direction of your life. The one who controls their reaction controls their destiny, because reaction is the first domino in the chain of cause and effect. Every empire has risen or fallen based on a single decision made in pressure. Every relationship has grown or crumbled based on words said in a moment of anger. Every fortune, every failure, every breakthrough can be traced back to how someone responded when the heat was turned up. And the truth is this: you will be tested, not once, not twice, but again and again. Life is not interested in comfort, it is interested in growth, and growth demands discomfort. You will not always be treated fairly. You will not always be understood. But if you can train yourself to pause, to step back from the edge of reaction, you gain an advantage so few possess. This doesn't mean you suppress your feelings. It means you acknowledge them without being ruled by them. It means that when anger surges, you observe it like a flame without letting it burn your house down. When fear whispers in your ear, you thank it for its warning, but proceed with courage. It means you take command of your mind before your mind takes command of you. This kind of self-control isn't built in comfort. It's forged in the fire of discipline. It's earned in those moments where everything in you wants to lash out, retreat, give up, or explode, and you choose instead to stand calm and act with intention. The powerful are not always the strongest or the loudest. They are the ones who can walk into a storm with their head high and their spirit unbothered. Emotional neutrality is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the clear mind in a crisis. It is the still heart in conflict. It is the inner voice that says, no matter what is happening out there, I choose what happens in here. And from that center, all power flows. Because when the world cannot shake you, it begins to respect you. People listen differently to a calm voice. They respond differently to a steady presence. Opportunities come to those who can be trusted with pressure. And that trust begins with how you carry yourself when emotion calls your name. Reaction is the language of the average. Response is the language of the extraordinary. The ability to pause, to choose, to act instead of react. That is the foundation of greatness. You do not need to be fearless to be powerful, but you must be in control. You must learn to sit with your emotions like guests, listen to them, and then make the decision that serves your purpose, not your momentary mood. That is how the great ones rise. That is how leaders are born. That is how ordinary people accomplish the extraordinary, not by fighting every battle, not by proving every point, but by mastering themselves so thoroughly that nothing can move them from the path they have chosen. That is power. That is emotional neutrality. And that is how you begin to shape your own destiny. Your external calm is not a mask. It is the evidence of a deeper power working from within. It is not silence for the sake of appearance, nor a forced stillness to impress the crowd. True calm in the face of adversity is a reflection of a disciplined mind and an anchored spirit. It is the mark of someone who has built strength, not in the absence of storms, but by walking through them and deciding over and over again not to be moved by what is outside them. Peace in the storm does not mean the storm isn't real. It means you are no longer afraid of it. The world is noisy. Chaos is constant. Pressure is everywhere. People live under stress like fish live in water. They hurry, they panic, they worry about tomorrow while still bleeding from yesterday. The average man shows you every fear he has just by the way he carries himself. His voice trembles when challenged. His shoulders slump when the weight gets heavy. He breaks eye contact when the truth gets too real. But the one who walks through this same world with calm in his eyes and peace in his presence is not ordinary. He is different, not because his life is easier, but because his foundation is stronger. The calm person is not calm because everything is going right. He is calm because he has trained his mind to respond from power, not panic. He has learned that control of self is the greatest control a man can ever achieve. When everything is falling apart, his stillness becomes a lighthouse to others who have lost their way. They look to him not for noise, not for emotion, but for steadiness. And that steadiness is not born from pretending, it is born from preparation. He has wrestled with his own demons. He has faced loss, doubt, and fear, and he has stood firm in the fire long enough to know that nothing outside him has the right to decide what happens inside him. External calm does not mean the absence of emotion. It means the mastery of emotion. You may feel the fear rise, the anger boil, the sadness swell, but you do not let them rule. You do not speak every word that pain places on your tongue. You do not act on every impulse born of frustration. You stand even when standing feels impossible. And in doing so, you prove to yourself and to the world that you are no longer a prisoner to your circumstances. You have become the captain of your soul. Peace in the storm is not passivity. It is the highest form of power. Anyone can scream when they are hurt. Anyone can panic when things go wrong. Anyone can quit when it gets tough. But to hold your ground, to speak with intention, to breathe slowly while the world spins fast, that is rare. That is strength, and it is not given. It is earned. It is built day by day in quiet moments of practice. When you choose discipline over indulgence, patience over rage, clarity over confusion, you lay another brick in the fortress of your mind. A man at peace with himself is a man who cannot be shaken by opinions, by losses, or by sudden changes in fortune, because he knows who he is and he knows what he stands for. This kind of internal clarity is not taught in schools. It is not handed out with degrees or awards. It is built in the silence when no one is watching. It is built when you learn to sit with discomfort without needing to escape it. It is built when you decide that your peace is worth more than your pride, your purpose worth more than your pleasure, your mission worth more than the moment. There will always be storms. There will always be people who test your patience, circumstances that push your limits, and moments that tempt you to lose control. But the person who remains calm under fire becomes the leader in the room. People feel it. They are drawn to it because calm is rare. Calm is steady. Calm is what power looks like when it doesn't need to announce itself. And so the goal is not to live a life without storms. The goal is to become the kind of person who no longer fears them. You do not rise by avoiding pressure. You rise by learning to be unmoved by it. And the proof of that growth is in your presence, in how you walk into a challenge, in how you carry when things don't go your way, in the tone of your voice when others raise theirs, in the look in your eyes when most people would be looking for the exit. Your calm is your credibility. Your peace is your influence. When others lose themselves, your centeredness becomes the difference. That is the power people follow. Not noise, not chaos, not force, but presence. And that presence comes only when your internal strength has been forged and proven. It is not words, it is energy. It is not performance, it is truth. And in a world addicted to urgency, the person who can walk with peace in the storm does not chase power, he becomes it. Unshakable behavior commands respect because it represents something rare, something powerful, something the world instinctively recognizes as leadership. In a society driven by reactions, trends, and emotional impulses, the individual who remains steady under pressure, calm in chaos, and composed in the face of confrontation is not just different, he is dominant. He does not need to shout to be heard, nor does he need to fight to prove his strength. His presence speaks before his words do. The world may challenge him, but it cannot ignore him. Most people live in constant reaction. A comment can derail their mood. A failure can crush their confidence. A delay can throw them into frustration. Their emotions own them, and as a result, so does the world. But the one who refuses to be moved by noise, by setbacks, or by other people's opinions becomes something the world doesn't know how to handle, immovable. And in the face of the immovable, people pause. They pay attention. They begin to respect, not because they are told to, but because their spirit feels the weight of that quiet, controlled power. The unshakable do not need approval to act. They move according to principle, not preference. They have built their character to such a degree that they cannot be bribed by praise or crippled by criticism. Whether they walk into a room full of applause or silence, they carry themselves the same. They do not shrink in front of power, and they do not abuse it when it is given to them. This kind of stability is not the result of arrogance, it is the result of deep personal discipline. Respect is never truly given to the loud, the boastful, or the erratic. Those figures may capture attention for a moment, but they rarely hold it. True respect is reserved for those whose behavior remains aligned with purpose, even when it would be easier to deviate. It goes to the person who shows consistency when others shift with the wind, because people are watching. They may not always say it, but they are observing how you carry yourself when things go wrong. They are measuring your integrity, not in your victories, but in your losses. And when they see that you do not flinch, even under fire, they begin to view you differently. You become the standard. Unshakable behavior does not mean you are without fear. It means you move forward anyway. It means you don't let fear make your decisions. It means you don't break your character when things get uncomfortable. It means your words match your actions, not just when it's easy, but when it's costly. This level of integrity is what elevates people from being seen as average to being viewed as exceptional. Because to remain unshaken is to tell the world, you cannot control me. And nothing earns more respect than self-mastery. There is a reason leaders are often the calmest voice in the room. The general does not panic on the battlefield. The captain does not tremble in the storm. The father, the mentor, the guide, these figures gain respect not because they always have the answers, but because they do not collapse under pressure. Their stability gives others stability. Their composure gives others permission to believe that victory is still possible. That is what respect is built on, the ability to hold the line when everyone else wants to abandon it. You don't have to announce that you're unshakable. In fact, you shouldn't. The power of unshakable behavior is that it speaks for itself. It shows up in the way you respond to criticism, in the way you handle betrayal, in the way you recover from loss without bitterness and press forward without complaint. The world is full of noise and distraction, and most people live at the mercy of both. But when you do not flinch, when your decisions come from values instead of moods, you become a force. And that force does not have to demand respect. It earns it through evidence. Flinching is what the world expects. The world expects you to lose control, to panic, to act out, to retaliate. But when you remain still, not in weakness, but in strength, the dynamic changes. The aggressor begins to question their power. The critic begins to question their words. Even the doubters begin to wonder if you know something they don't. This is not manipulation. It is magnetism. It is the law of power in motion. The less you react, the more influence you gain. To be unshakable is not to avoid conflict. It is to walk through it with your head held high and your heart anchored in something deeper than ego. It is to know who you are and why you do what you do. When you hold that line, when you become that unmoved pillar in the storm, people can't help but notice. The world may test you, but eventually it bows. Not because you asked it to, but because it knows it cannot bend you. Stoic action over emotional reaction is the dividing line between those who rise to greatness and those who crumble under pressure. In every challenge, in every confrontation, in every disappointment, we are faced with a choice. Do we react impulsively or do we respond deliberately? One is driven by the heat of emotion, the other by the coolness of reason. And in that split-second decision lies the entire trajectory of your future. Winners are not the ones who feel less. They are the ones who are ruled by their principles, not by their emotions. Losers let their circumstances dictate their behavior. Winners decide in advance how they will act, regardless of the noise around them. Emotional reactions are easy. Anyone can explode in anger when offended. Anyone can collapse into despair when things go wrong. Anyone can lash out, retreat, or blame others when pressure mounts. These are the default responses of the undisciplined mind. They require no training, no awareness, no inner work. But they always come with a cost. Every emotional reaction chips away at your control, your credibility, and your potential. Because once your emotions have taken the wheel, you are no longer steering the direction of your life. You are simply being driven by the chaos within you. Stoic action, on the other hand, is the sign of someone who has matured beyond impulse. It is the sign of someone who understands that emotion is part of life, but not the ruler of it. It means choosing to pause before speaking. It means standing in your values even when the heat of the moment tempts you to abandon them. It means asking yourself, what outcome do I want here, instead of how do I feel right now? This shift, though subtle, is profound because it puts your focus on results, not reaction. It puts your energy into solutions, not self-expression, and over time, that control compounds into power. The world constantly gives you reasons to react: betrayals, setbacks, insults, delays, failures. But when you choose stoic action instead of letting those triggers dictate your behavior, you break free from the emotional traps that keep most people. You stop bleeding energy into battles that don't matter. You stop defending yourself when silence is more powerful. You stop trying to control what you cannot and start mastering what you can. You're, every time you respond instead of react, you reinforce strength within yourself. You are training your mind to stay calm in the fire, and that calm becomes your advantage. It allows you to think clearly while others are lost in emotion. It allows you to make strategic decisions instead of impulsive ones. It allows you to hold your vision even when everything seems to be falling apart. People often think stoicism is cold or robotic, but the truth is, it is deeply human. It is born from the understanding that life will test you, and that those tests are not meant to break you, but to shape you. Winners become winners because they learn to separate emotion from execution. They do not let temporary feelings destroy permanent goals. They do not send angry emails they will regret. They do not make life-changing decisions in the heat of fear. They discipline themselves to move with purpose, to act from intention, and to let time and wisdom have a say before action is taken. That discipline is what gives them consistency, and consistency is what produces results. Losers, on the other hand, are slaves to the moment. They react because it feels good. They explode because it relieves tension. They run from problems because fear has more power than vision. And then they wonder why life feels like a cycle they can't escape. They may have talent, but talent without control is wasted. They may have potential, but potential without discipline is fantasy. Without stoic action, emotion becomes a trap that keeps them circling the same mountains, never climbing to the summit. There is immense freedom in emotional control, not repression, control. The freedom to choose your next step based on what you want in the long term, not what you feel in the moment. That freedom gives you the ability to stand tall when others fold, to remain steady when others spiral, to move forward when others are stuck in reaction. And as you do this, you begin to separate yourself. People notice. They may not know what it is at first, but they feel it. The strength, the calm, the clarity, it's unmistakable. It is the presence of a winner. Not someone who never feels, but someone who never lets feeling override focus. To win in life, you must learn to master the pause. The moment between the trigger and your response. That is where your power lives. That is where greatness is forged. Not in the roar of emotion, but in the quiet decision to rise above it. In a world that screams react, be the one who responds. Be the one who thinks when others panic. Be the one who moves forward with stoic action. And in doing so, leave the reactive crowd behind. Faith in yourself must become the loudest voice you hear, because the world will always be full of noise. Opinions will come from every direction, some kind, some cruel, some rooted in jealousy, others in ignorance. Circumstances will shift without warning. Loss, rejection, failure, betrayal, these are all guaranteed in the journey of life. And if you do not have an unshakable belief in your own value, in your own capacity, in your ability to rise again, you will find yourself constantly pulled off course. You will live according to the noise, not the vision. And when the noise becomes louder than your own conviction, you are no longer living your life, you are surviving everyone else's expectations. Self-faith is not arrogance. It is not a blind, boastful delusion. It is not built on pretending to be better than you are. It is built on deep inner work, on proving to yourself through daily effort that you are dependable, that you show up, that you learn, that you grow. It's a quiet certainty that says, no matter what happens, I can handle it. I will not break. I may bend. I may fall, but I will always rise. That kind of belief cannot be gifted to you. It must be built by you. And the only way to build it is through trial, through persistence, through walking forward when everything tells you to turn back. The world is designed to test your faith in yourself. From childhood, you are conditioned to listen to external voices, teachers, peers, family, media, all feeding you messages about what is possible, what is acceptable, what you should or should not be. And most people live under the weight of those voices forever. They shrink to fit expectations. They stay silent to avoid criticism. They hesitate. They procrastinate. They hide not because they lack desire, but because they lack belief. But the ones who rise, the ones who create, who build, who lead, they are not louder in volume, they are louder in conviction. They do not need everyone to believe in them because they have chosen to believe in themselves. When you trust yourself fully, you stop seeking permission. You stop waiting for the world to validate your worth. You move with purpose, even if no one else sees the vision. You speak your truth. Even if your voice trembles, you take action, not because it's safe, but because it's necessary. That trust becomes your compass. While others are tossed by every wave, you remain anchored. Circumstances may change, but your direction does not. Defeat may visit you, but it does not define you, because you know deeply that you are more than the outcome. You are the effort, the intention, the resilience behind every step. Every great achievement in history began with someone who had faith in themselves when no one else did. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every act of courage, it all started with a person who listened to the voice inside instead of the noise outside. That voice said, you can, even when the world said you can't. That voice said, keep going, when the world said, give up. And because they listened, they changed everything, not just for themselves, but for everyone watching. That is the power of self-faith. It does not just protect you, it inspires others. There will be moments when you are alone, when no one claps for you, when support is absent, when results are delayed. That is where most people stop. But those who win keep moving, not because it's easy, but because they've made a decision to believe in themselves regardless of evidence, regardless of opinion, regardless of outcome. That decision must be made again and again. Faith is not a one-time act. It is a lifestyle. It's how you think. It's how you speak to yourself. It's how you respond to failure, how you interpret pain, how you face uncertainty. You must become louder than doubt, louder than fear, louder than every voice that tells you to stay small. That voice inside you must become a roar, not of arrogance, but of certainty. Certainty that you were not born to fit in, but to stand out. Certainty that your dreams were not given to you as a tease, but as a calling. Certainty that what lives within you is stronger than what stands before you. When your faith in yourself reaches that level, nothing can hold you back. You do not fear opinions because opinions do not pay the price for your regrets. You do not fear defeat because you see it as feedback, not finality. You do not fear the storm because the storm only reveals the strength of your foundation. And that foundation is built on you, your choices, your effort, your belief. The day you trust yourself fully is the day you become unstoppable. Not because the world gets easier, but because you are no longer dependent on its approval to move forward. You have become your own source of validation. And from that place, no opinion can shake you. No circumstance can imprison you. No defeat can define you. Faith in yourself is the ultimate power. When it is loud enough, the noise of the world becomes nothing more than background. In the end, the voice you choose to trust will shape the life you live. Let it be your own. Let your inner belief drown out the doubt, the fear, and the noise of the world. When you trust yourself, you no longer beg for approval. You command your path. Circumstances may shift. Opinions may come and go, but your confidence remains your compass. The world respects the one who walks with quiet certainty. So rise, stand firm, and move boldly, because the moment your faith in yourself becomes louder than everything else, you become unstoppable, and the world begins to listen.